Hey everyone, welcome to Hits and Headlines. Whether you're a first-time listener or a returning fan, we're so glad you're here today. On today's episode, we're talking about two Filipino stars making waves worldwide. SB19’s Justin De Dios and Hori 7’s Chua, both of whom have made it to the 100 Most Handsome Faces of 2024 list. Let's dive into their journey and what this major achievement means for their careers and the Filipino entertainment scene. Now let's kick things off with your hosts, Zachary and Dinah.
Okay, so beauty, it's subjective, right? But there's always this fascination with those most beautiful or most handsome lists. Like, we can't help but peek and see who made the cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. It's like a guilty pleasure. We see these lists and we just have to know.
Exactly. So today we're going to do a deep dive into one of these lists, the 100 Most Handsome Faces of 2024 by T.C. Candler.
Ah, yes. T.C. Candler. Always stirring up the conversation.
For sure. And we're going to focus on this article from philstar.com about two Filipino pop idols who actually landed some pretty impressive spots on the list.
Oh, wow. Filipino idols. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It really got us thinking about what makes someone handsome, especially on a global scale.
I'm intrigued. Let's hear about these Filipino heartthrobs.
All right. So first up, we have Justin De Dios. He's the youngest member of the Filipino boy band SB19. They call the youngest the Bunso.
Bunso?
I like that. And get this, he came in at 41st place, even beating out Captain America himself, Chris Evans, who was 42nd.
Wow, that's a big deal, beating out Captain America. He must be something special.
He is. And you know what's funny?
What's that?
Chris Evans's wife, actress Alba Baptista, she made the top 10 of the 100 Most Beautiful Faces list.
No way! So a husband and wife duo on these lists?
Isn't that wild?
It's like they're Hollywood royalty.
Right. But here's another twist.
No, I'm listening.
The Most Beautiful Faces list. That one had another Filipina at the very top.
Really? Who is she?
Andrea Brillantes. You might know her.
Oh yeah, I've heard of her. She's gorgeous.
So we've got these two Filipinos, Justin and Andrea, both ranking super high on these global beauty lists.
It makes you think, huh?
It really does. Like, what is it about Filipino beauty standards? Are they resonating globally? Maybe there's something about the warmth, the genuine smiles, or a certain charisma that's captivating people worldwide.
It's an interesting thought. And you know what else is interesting?
What's that?
Justin De Dios. He's branching out solo now.
Oh, yeah. He just released a new single, Surreal.
And I heard he wants to get into acting and directing too.
Exactly. Could this be a sign of Filipino talent breaking into international entertainment?
It's definitely possible. We're seeing more and more Filipino artists making waves globally, not just in music, but in film and TV as well.
Okay, so let's talk about our second Filipino heartthrob, Chua. He's a member of the K-pop group Hori 7.
K-pop. So he's got that global fandom behind him.
For sure. And this is actually his second time on the list.
Second time. He must be a consistent charmer.
He is. And get this. He landed at 21st place this year, which is even higher than last time.
Wow, climbing the ranks. Impressive.
He even beat out Aquaman star Jason Momoa, who came in at 25th.
No way. He beat Jason Momoa twice.
Twice. Isn't that crazy?
It makes you wonder what T.C. Candler is really looking for. They say they look beyond just conventional beauty. But how do they measure stuff like cultural impact or charisma? It seems a little subjective, don't you think?
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of the rankings, but we should probably think about the criteria too. What do you think? Are these lists more than just a popularity contest?
I think there's definitely more to it than just looks. You know, T.C. Candler's lists have become a global phenomenon. They've been running them for over 30 years. They've sparked so many conversations about beauty standards. It's clear they're trying to capture a more holistic view of attractiveness, something beyond the superficial.
So they're looking at the whole package. Talent, charisma, and maybe even that's certain je ne sais quoi.
Exactly. And this year's top 10 is really diverse. You've got K-pop stars alongside actors like Timothée Chalamet and Henry Cavill. It suggests they're embracing a wider range of faces and features.
That's a good point. It seems like they're moving away from a one-size-fits-all standard of beauty.
Right. It's like they're recognizing that beauty comes in many forms.
Okay, so they're looking beyond the superficial. But how much weight do you think they give to things like social media presence or global recognition? When we talk about cultural impact, what does that even mean?
That's a tough question. Honestly, I think it's something T.C. Candler is still figuring out. The influence of social media and the globalization of entertainment have definitely impacted their selections. But to what extent is hard to say.
It's a bit of a mystery.
Kind of. But what's fascinating is that these lists can act like a mirror. They reflect how global perceptions of beauty are changing.
Oh, I like that. They're holding up a mirror to our collective tastes and preferences.
Exactly. And the fact that we're seeing more diversity in these rankings, both in terms of ethnicity and representation from different entertainment industries, it suggests a move towards celebrating a wider range of faces and features.
I love that. Recognizing that beauty truly is in the eye of the beholder, and that beholder is becoming increasingly global and diverse.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Let's be real, though. These lists, they cause a lot of buzz, right?
Yeah, for sure.
People love to debate them, share their opinions, get all worked up about who made it and who didn't. Do you think there's a danger in putting too much emphasis on these rankings? Like, could it go too far?
Absolutely. There's definitely an entertainment factor. It's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important to remember that it's just one list, one perspective. It's not the be-all and end-all.
Exactly. And what about the people on the list? I mean, landing a spot like that could be a big career boost, right? Especially for someone like Justin Dios, who's just starting out solo.
Oh yeah, definitely. These lists can give artists huge exposure, introduce them to a whole new audience, can open doors to collaborations, new opportunities.
So even though the lists might seem superficial on the surface, they can have some real-world impact.
Yeah. They can shape how people see these artists, influence what opportunities come their way, and contribute to this whole idea of fame and beauty. It's all connected.
It all comes back to these two Filipino idols we've been talking about, Justin Dios and Chua. What do you think their presence on the list means for Filipino representation in global entertainment?
I think it's a really big deal. It's a step forward. Their high rankings show off their talent and appeal, but it also highlights how Filipino artistry is getting recognized on a global stage.
It's like the world is finally taking notice.
Yeah, and it's not just about these two guys. We're seeing more and more Filipino talent everywhere, from music and film to fashion and modeling.
It's inspiring to see.
It really is. It speaks to the hard work, the dedication, and the undeniable talent of Filipino artists.
Speaking of talent, let's go back to Justin Dios and his solo debut. Do you think being on the Most Handsome Faces list might give his career a little extra push?
It could definitely help. Like we said, these lists can get you noticed, introduce you to new fans. It's like a stamp of approval.
A signal to the world, hey, pay attention to this guy.
Exactly. And in an industry as tough as entertainment, every little bit helps.
And what about social media? Do you think platforms like Instagram and TikTok have made these lists even more impactful?
Oh, absolutely. Social media is how we experience pop culture these days. These lists blow up online. People are posting, sharing, discussing. It all adds to the hype and the influence.
It's like a chain reaction.
Yeah.
The lists create buzz online, and that buzz makes them even bigger.
Yeah, and now you've got these global fandoms, fans all over the world connecting and supporting their favorite artists. It doesn't matter where they're from.
That's a great point. We've been talking about the global appeal of Filipino talent, but what about Filipino beauty standards themselves? How do those fit into this global landscape?
The Philippines has this unique mix of cultural influences, which you can see in their beauty standards.
We see it in artists like Justin Dios and Andrea Briantes.
There's a warmth, a genuine charm, and this interesting blend of Eastern and Western influences that makes them stand out.
Do you think that unique blend is part of what makes them so appealing worldwide?
It's definitely possible. As global beauty standards evolve, we're moving away from those old Eurocentric ideals and embracing diversity and inclusivity.
And Filipino beauty, with all those different cultural influences, seems to fit right in.
It's all about individuality, authenticity, and this mix of features. It's hard to define. It's captivating.
So these most beautiful and most handsome lists, they might seem light and fun, but they actually give us a glimpse into this whole complex world of beauty fame and cultural influence.
They get people talking. They challenge our perceptions, and they remind us that beauty is complicated. It's always changing.
It makes you think.
It does. And at the end of the day, the most important question is, what do you think?
So what do you think? What makes someone handsome or beautiful to you? Is it totally personal, or is there something bigger going on, like cultural stuff?
It's a good question. Especially now with all these images coming at us from everywhere. Like, think about the last most beautiful list you saw. Did you agree with it? What made you think that way?
We've talked about rising stars, Filipino talent going global, and how beauty standards are always changing. We started with a simple article about handsome faces, but now we're talking about beauty and fame and culture. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's what makes a good deep dive so interesting. You start with one thing and end up somewhere completely different.
Exactly. So before we wrap up, I want to leave you with something to think about. We talked about what these lists are and how they work, but why do we care so much? Why are we obsessed with ranking beauty?
It's a good question. Maybe we just like to categorize things. Maybe it's about wanting to belong and connect with others who admire the same people. Or maybe it's something even deeper.
It could be all of those things. There might not be one right answer. But one thing's for sure. Beauty is powerful, no matter how you define it.
Yeah, it shapes how we see the world, how we see ourselves. It even affects the choices we make.
So next time you see a picture of a perfect person, take a moment to think about it. What standards are you using to judge them? And where did those standards come from?
Because real beauty isn't about fitting into a mold. It's about being yourself and celebrating what makes you unique.
That's a great way to put it. Remember, beauty is more than just looks. It's about confidence, kindness, and how you make the world a better place.
Until next time, stay curious.